What it do? Dream Team, it's your boy Neal back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with avoid these mistakes when you are in Australia 2022. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring notification bell, give the video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. Oh you got?
Okay, let's talk about mistakes or things that you shouldn't really do when you're here in Australia. Let's get started. Disclaimer, this is based on my experience. If you have a different experience, leave a comment below and let us know if in your country all these things are appropriate or not. The first thing to avoid doing when you're here in Australia is to hug or kiss people when you just met them. Okay. Australians really value their personal space and their privacy. They like to keep a bit of physical distance. In my case, in my culture, we tend to say hi with a kiss on the cheek, but yeah, not here in Australia. Usually you shake people's hands or you just say, hi, how you going? And that's it. If you already know them, usually you just give them a hug.
Basically the exact same in Australia. You get your rare instances where people are a hugger and they do hug like the first time you meet, but in most cases, in general, the rule of thumb is, right, you meet someone, shake their hand, introduce yourself, for the first time meeting at least. And like she said, once you get to know them and y'all become friends or whatever, then you get a little hug. You feel me? Or a certain handshake. Make up a certain handshake that you and that person got. But yeah, we don't do like the kiss on the cheek. Not here in America. Not for rule of thumb.
Another thing that you should avoid doing when you're here in Australia is not looking people in the eye. When you're talking to an Australian or someone who lives here, you make direct eye contact to demonstrate that you're actively listening to them and that you're engaged in the conversation. If you're looking other way, they might think that you just are not listening or you don't care about what they're saying.
Yeah, I feel like that's just a common courtesy. Like, look someone in the eye when they're talking. Yeah, because I know if I'm not looking someone in the eye, I hear what they're saying, but like I'm not as focused, so I'm distracted. If I'm either on my phone or looking somewhere else, it's like I may miss a thing or two. But look someone in the eye definitely lets them know that you're engaged 100%. If you don't look them in the eye, you're looking away, then yeah, you're probably a little bit distracted.
Another thing that you shouldn't do when you're here in Australia is playing music out loud in public spaces, especially at the beach or when you go to a campsite or when you're hiking. People are going to nature, to the beach to relax, to listen to the birds, and they don't want someone playing music out loud. Always wear your earphones and everything will be fine.
I like that.
Something that you should avoid in Australia is not being direct. If you have a question, just ask. Of course, always be polite and respectful, but you should always ask if you have a question, because this shows, especially at work, this shows that you are engaged.
I feel like here we're more, I don't know, maybe it's just me, it's more, but here I think it's more indirectness, more beating around the bush. And then if you have a question, a lot of people don't like to ask questions because they're too shy or they feel embarrassed about certain things, even if they don't know the thing. And I'm one of those people. But I understand what she's saying.
Another thing that you should avoid when you're here in Australia is gossiping. It's about someone else's appearance, especially at work. It's not nice. It creates a lot of distrust, and you can actually get fired if someone finds your comments to be offensive or racist. So you have to be very, very careful with that.
Yeah, same.
Another thing that you should avoid is not responding to invitations. You always have to RSVP, that is, you always have to reply to an invitation, whether it is for yes or for no. Don't let them hanging or guessing whether you're going to be able to make it or not.
I hate when people do that, like, because it's like, as the person who's setting up the party or the get together or whatever you're RSVPing for, it's like, you need to know exactly how many people are going to be there in order to set it up properly. It's like, and then when people leave you hanging and decide to come last second or decide not to come last second, it messes you all up.
And speaking of invitations, something that you should avoid is not bringing something to a party. Even if the person tells you to not bring anything, at least bring a box of chocolates or a wine, but never come empty-handed. Always bring something with you.
Oh yeah, I usually bring myself. I ain't gonna lie, I don't usually bring things to any parties I'm invited to. I'm probably a cheapskate in that sense, but I bring myself, you know. my presence is a present, you know, just think along those lines.
Australians lack punctuality. As I said in all of my other videos, Australians will get offended if you are late. And not only Australians, people from other cultures who live here as well. Just be respectful of people's time.
I hate when people are, I feel like America, we probably a late crew, but I hate when people show up late, or I hate being late to something.
Another thing that you should avoid is to showing up to someone's house unannounced. Australians like to make appointments for a lot of things. I'm not going to generalize here because this doesn't apply to all Australians, especially when you're younger or if you're living in a regional area or in a little town. It's more common to pop up unannounced, but in big cities or big communities, usually you just organize with your mates to see them at a specific time, because otherwise you might just rock up there, there might not be anyone, and also it's a waste of time for you. So yeah,
I hate when people try to show up unannounced or anything, because it's like, bro, like, I have a set schedule of what I need to do every day, and I have certain times that I need to get done. And if you want to hang out, cool, like, but let's set a time for it, you know, so I can get all these things done, and so I can put aside that time to hang out with you. But if you show up unannounced, it's like, hey, I don't really have time right now, because, I mean, I got work, I got things I got to do. You got to let me know ahead of time. Can't show up unannounced.
Another thing that you should avoid is talking about politics or religion. Again, though, I'm not going to generalize, and this doesn't apply to all Australians. But in general, you should be careful when talking about politics or your opinions about religion. As someone said in one of my videos, if you're with your friends, you might have a bit more trust with them to talk about these things, but usually you can sense whether everyone feels comfortable or not. So you have to test the waters. Yeah, it's something that, for example, in my culture, we debate a lot about that over the table with friends, with family. We don't really mind. We have very heated debates as well. But here I find that it's not the case so much. In general, be sensitive.
Yeah, I don't like talking about politics. I feel like people here are more sensitive. But I don't like talking about politics or religion. You know what I'm saying? Because people can't agree to disagree. I think that's the problem. People can't agree to disagree, and if you have different opinions, then it's like you can't be cool with that person. Like, you can't still be cool and also have different opinions here, unfortunately. I just don't talk about those things. I stay away from it. But I feel like a lot of Americans do talk about politics and religion.
Another thing that you should avoid, especially if you're working, is speaking in a language that people around you can't understand. If you're having lunch with your colleagues and one of your colleagues is from your same country, for example, you both speak Spanish, and you speak in Spanish but no one else can understand, you should switch to English, just out of respect for the other people who are around you. You could be making fun of them, but they've no idea. Yeah.
Completely agree with that one.
Another thing that you should avoid when you're here in Australia is littering. And I know that I'm going to get a lot of comments from people saying, oh, why are you saying that? It's obvious. And I'm sorry, but it's not obvious. Many people who litter a lot, and that's something that first you can get big fines for that, or you're going to get someone telling you, hey, don't litter, and it's going to be very humiliating. And yeah, we need to take care of our nature, our parks. If you go camping, if you go hiking, grab a rubbish bag, put all your waste there and just take it back home. Because I've been to, for example, the Grampians National Park, and sometimes you do see a lot of rubbish, especially during public holidays. And really, I just don't understand why. But yeah, that's something that, yeah, don't litter.
Yeah, that's something that should be obvious, but it's just not. It's just like common sense should be common, but it's just not. You know what I'm saying? You just got to say everything.
Not picking up your dog's poop. Really, I can't believe that I'm saying this, but I've lived in a country where this is not usual, and people just leave their dog's waste there on the street, and then I walk and I step on it and I'm like, why? So yeah, and also you can get big fines as well. I think up to $200 for not picking up your dog's poop. Just saying.
It's like, just pick it out. It's your dog. It's your responsibility. Pick up the poop.
And speaking of fines, another thing that you should avoid is not paying for public transport. I've seen many cases where people come and then because you're on the tram, no one really sees you, so they don't pay, they don't touch on or touch off. But there are many inspectors, especially in big cities. You'll see lots of inspectors hopping on the train or hopping on the tram and checking whether you paid or not. And they can charge you around $75 or $100 for not paying. So that's the fine.
Don't want to pay.
And another thing relating to fines is that if you're in public transport, don't put your feet on the seats. I was with a friend. She had come on the work and holiday visa, and we were on the train, and she put her feet on the seat just unconsciously. She was tired, and an inspector came and they said, this is a $100 fine. And she was like, what?
God.
Yes, for putting her feet on the seat. And they asked her for her passport and everything, and my friend couldn't even speak English, and she was like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. And then they were a bit compassionate and they let her go, but they gave her a warning. So yeah, they're very, very strict.
I was gonna say that a foreigner, she don't know all the rules. It's a quick warning. No need to fine on the first offense. Just a warning. Shout out to the inspectors for showing that compassion and giving her that warning. And she didn't know.
Another thing that you should avoid is haggling. In many cultures, you're always negotiating to get a bargain, but not in Australia. You just pay the price that they give you and that's it, but you don't haggle.
That makes sense. I feel like we really like to haggle here in America.
Another thing that you should avoid is not saying thank you, please, or just being polite. Australians are super, super polite. I know in big cities, when you bump into someone on the street, not many people say that, believe it or not. But yeah, here in Australia, it's very, very common. It's so ingrained, like saying, I'm sorry, or yes, please, thank you. If you're late to an appointment, for example, you call them beforehand and you say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm going to be late. It's just basic manners and politeness. Another thing that you should avoid is saying what? Like, for example, if you didn't understand someone and you didn't understand what they
I'd have that. That's something that I would have. That's something that I would have to avoid because I'm used to saying
said. You should say pardon, or I beg your pardon, or I'm sorry. Oh, can you say that again, please? Okay, so these are the mistakes that you should avoid when you're here in Australia. I hope you find this video entertaining, and if you liked it, please like and subscribe to support the channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Hey. That's all we got for this one. Definitely a nice video. If you guys got a favorite video suggestion, you can subscribe to Patreon or drop it in the comment section. It's your boy Neal. Out.